Techies and techettes. Today what we're going to be covering, new people and returning community members, is what's the difference between the standard and optional? What are they good for? How can I optimize those to go towards those in a situation? And better more, of what the actual 20.Q3.1 is, which is their Enterprise Pro software. Is that good to use at any point in time for anything across the board? And are you curious as a creator if it does anything? We're going to be covering that throughout some benchmarks, and I'll be showing some stuff through Blender and 3D Mark in order to get some clarity to some people to see what technology software you need to install to get the best performance for your AMD technology. My name is Mac and you're at the MacGyver 7 channel, and today we're going to be covering some AMD related news. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at Windows and its slew of just broken updates that can really do a number on performance. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and take a look at what's going to be going down past Windows and what the actual portion. The ecosystem that I'm using is the current 2004 and up to date with all the security drivers. It has been a bumpy ride for as far as what will activate the hardware accelerators, like really good RPM, the variable refresh rate when it will come in and come out. It's really confusing sometimes for a lot of it, and how to get both of those entangled in order to work. But first and foremost, let's look at Blender. For the creators looking for the enterprise software, is it good to install? Now this next test is going to be something where the lower number the better. So let's go ahead and take a look at it, as we're going to be looking at the B&W render. Looking at the situation at hand, when you see the 20.Q3.1, it excels. And oddly enough, it excels under hardware accelerator with the variable refresh rate on. It literally cuts you off one more second. So where the standard completely has nothing to offer creators, where an optional gives a option, the enterprise software gives a great standard for you to actually do some hard work onto it. So if you're trying to render some stuff in Blender, this is actually going to be kind of cool, especially if you have, like, you know, a Radeon 7. They're not that bad. Like, honestly, I think for me, I've had a really good use of them. I didn't really buy them for a gaming creator card. I bought it more for a creator gaming card, if that makes sense. But let's go ahead and take a look at some Firestrike, as we see it right behind me in the benchmarks, and that's on my old rig at this point in time. I thought it'd just be cool, like, background. But we're gonna go ahead and take a look at DirectX 11 and the performances and what works with all these hardware. Whoa, what's going on? Let's give you some options and clarify some cool stuff. Now, with the reverse higher being better, for DirectX 11 we'll start to see some odd performance perks. Now, optional definitely does give some stuff where you have your hardware accelerator on and your normal, but it drops with the variable refresh rate, and with both of them it rebounds. You can see that the standard takes the reigning king even over the enterprise software, which later on will give us a few wait whats. Seriously, it was really strange, but there is going to be some categories where that software actually does come in handy with some FPS. Looking at the situation where you can see where the standard is, if you're just doing basic 1080p, so that's I'm plugging and playing in my graphics card. I'm not someone that's going to press an overdrive or overclock or anything along that way. I just want to play my games, not really going to mess with the settings when I first out of the box, maybe a basic 1080p. That's your standard. 20.4.2 will give you the stability on top of the performance. Now, where the optional really pulls out ahead is when we're going to the next step with extreme. And this is where it really blew me away. Look at the enterprise software. I mean, maybe, just maybe, I'm not saying that like everyone should run over to install the enterprise software if they happen to be an overclocking enthusiast in that situation of getting a few FPS inside of there. But it is something that raises an inquisitive eyebrow in the technology department. I mean, if you look at the numbers, they don't lie, and it really does stomp out the standard and gives the optional a really good run for the money. Taking a closer look at it, even with the hardware accelerator on, anything on, it just beats it and slaughters it across the door. Now, that could be where they're trying to utilize some more extreme renders, and they're trying to get that, and that's where the leg room is, and maybe it's utilizing that RAM right. You know, it's like, I mean, there's a lot of things that are going to go down to those components of being able to make that FPS driven point on the ecosystem ecosystem that Windows has given us right now. But for as it stands, if you're utilizing standard, you're not going to get that higher performance when it goes towards like the, hey, I'm probably going to click in like my overclock on the auto, or I'm doing some overclocking myself, or just, you know, giving a little bit more FPS standards in a harder setting in a game. It's really not going to come through for you. Now, the optional definitely does give some stuff, but it may come with some stability bumps, but it looks like the enterprise software is just killing it. Now, again, there would have to be testing for actual gameage to see if it was really good, but let's go ahead and go to the Ultra and see if it continues. And pretty much the same standard hits. Standard is pretty much on the bottom of the performance. Optional is giving a fight for the money over standard, and you're getting your really, wait, what's going on with the, you know, software enterprise edition? Like, that's like really crazy how it's doing that with the DirectX 11 and really giving a great platform for that to be benchmarked and just like across the board on all FPSs. And it's like almost like variable refresh rate and the standard are almost the two top ones, so you could just literally just have the enterprise software on there and just play some games and it might actually be good. But again, I mean, like, if you did do that and ran into some errors, switch right back to it, and you can always GDU it, which is always the safest way to install and uninstall stuff, which is kind of cool. But getting down to our DirectX 12 brings up a whole new slew of situations that will occur with this software. But to cap our DirectX 11 look, it's basically like this. If you're going to play standard gaming, not mess with anything, stick with the standard, or if you want stability with that standard with overclocking, it's going to be good. If you want something you can kind of mess around with a little bit, optional, and get a little more FPS, and it might be a little bumpy ride, it's kind of like, you know, an all-terrain vehicle, you know, it's in ATV mode, but, you know, it's like, hey, you know, it definitely just gives some stuff. And look at the enterprise situation as well. You're definitely going to get a really great experience when you switch to the enterprise situation for creation, which makes me want to like test out OBS and other creation standpoints to see how well it adapts, because it definitely did a good job in my opinion. I think that 20.Q3.1 was a great attempt for AMD to finally give us something that was like, okay, cool, that's actually a creator's card. But looking at what we're looking for the DirectX 12 and the closer look we can see inside there, well, we're starting to see some standards for the basic 1080p coming out ahead. You see optional falling down unless you have your combo of the hardware accelerator and the variable refresh rate, and you can see that the enterprise oddly enough kicks its butt when it comes down to either having both on or having like the variable refresh rate by itself. Oddly, I don't know why it's doing that with the ecosystem of Windows. Could just be one of those weird security update things, but you can see that this hardware accelerator kind of kills it almost at the like the edge where you can fall below the standard and the optional. So looking at these points of introduction, when would this be good for me in that situation as a gamer or as a creator? As a creator, yes, it seems like it's going to have a great platform for the 1080p for creation standpoints, and you'll have a great standard for as far as, hey, I don't want to mess with it, just like the reiteration of DirectX 11. You're going to go into that same standpoint. But looking at Extreme tells a different story. We'll start to see that the glory of the enterprise software falls a little bit behind. It's not really good in that 4K department for as far as handling any kind of FPS, or maybe in that standpoint for the creation standpoint. So it might just barely meet it, but it's kind of a good competition. It's not bad. I'm just saying when you compare it to the other stores, the standard where it falls short versus what it would just be by itself, which is the blue, which is just purely time spy, no hardware accelerator, no variable refresh rate, no combo of that, and it does really well by itself. Looking at the standard, it does even better, but looking at the optional, it slaughters it. So let's go ahead and sum up today. Which software should I be picking? If you're a creator, install the enterprise. Hands down, it seems to have a lot of benefits that is opening up to be like a fine wine that I'm starting to experience and gonna want to like play around with after this. Looking at the 20.4.2 is perfect for people that are 1080p, not really driven on doing anything super crazy, and just kind of playing a game and having a fun time. Streamline, plug and play, have a great day. Standard is amazing for keeping it down and having just the great stability. Now, optional options are plentiful, because you're going to start to understand that you can have overclocking headroom. Now, 20.9.1 is horrible with overclocking. I would personally recommend one of the 20.8s, probably 1 or 2. Those are usually pretty decent for as far as having that, I guess, edge with the Windows ecosystem right now, which it didn't. But those changed as Windows does security updates and we start to see that AMD introduces maybe a 20.9.2. That might even be tomorrow. But where you're going to get out to that portion is if you want to go to the extreme portions, you're more into the 4K, optional hands down. Enterprise software seems like it offers a lot of cool stuff, but it seems like more for the creation stations for everyone. Thank you so much for sticking tuned for this little bit more in depth of the Adrenalin softwares, if it be the Pro or the regular, and we're starting to understand it. Just like NVIDIA has their game-ready drivers and their studio drivers, now it seems like the 20.Q3.1 now has definition to be its studio driver, and showing that it can definitely beat when having the rendering by 2 seconds over the regular standard, which is not too bad. Honestly, looking at that shows a lot of latency dependencies, and dropping those points and tightening it. Maybe it's something to do with the Infinity Fabric. It's something worth a check out. But my name's Mac again. I'll see you guys and gals in the near future. If you're new to the network, you can always subscribe. It's absolutely free. It helps me out as a creator. Hit the like button, hit the share button, so everyone else in the technological world can have a fun time with this, to kind of get their opinion, to see what they like about this. If you guys and gals are definitely having some issues, drop a comment down below. I'd like to hear what you have to say. And if you are having those issues, check the update button. I'm very curious to see if those are corresponding to a lot of people's Windows updates when our FPS goes down inside of the tank button, or when it does start to get better all of a sudden randomly when we're just like, wait, I didn't really do anything. But everyone stay classy, stay safe, and I'll see you guys and gals in the near future. And if you subscribe today, who knows, maybe, just maybe, I'll become one of those shield agents. That'd be cool, you know, like Marvel Universe. You should just have to subscribe to find out. That beats me one of those modern Marvels of the universe. But I'll see you guys and gals in the near future, and for more cooler stuff, I'll be testing a lot of this more, I guess, branched out portion of the look of technology, since it seems like a lot of people really love this, and quite frankly, this was a little overdue for my channel because a lot of people were asking, and quite frankly, I was curious myself. So later, everyone.